Hi everyone, my name is Wendy Hill. I'm from the Education and Training team at Carers New South Wales. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the Carer Gateway services and supports. So before we start, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we're meeting today and extend my respect to elders both past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to other Aboriginal people joining me today. Carers New South Wales is the peak non-government organisation for carers across New South Wales. Our vision is an Australia that values and supports all carers. We're a part of the National Carer Network and a member of Carers Australia. When we talk about carers, we're talking about those unpaid, informal family and friends that are providing care and support to another person. That person could be living with a disability, a mental illness, drug or alcohol dependency, a chronic health problem, a terminal illness, or they could be frail due to age. Generally, a carer is anybody that's providing that care. They don't need to be related to the person. They don't need to be living with the person to be recognised as a carer under the New South Wales Carer Recognition Act. However, what we're not talking about here are people that are in a paid capacity, so professional or paid care workers. So we're not talking about registered nurses, we're not talking about disability support workers, aged care workers, home care workers, people of that nature. It doesn't matter what the relationship is. So the carer may be a partner, a parent, a friend, a sibling, a relative, or a child of the person that's needing care. So today we're going to have a look at how carer support has changed, introduce you to the services and supports available through Carer Gateway, and understand how to access those services and supports. So Carer Gateway focuses on services designed specifically for carers. What's been happening in the last few years is when care recipients are talking to health, aged care, disability care, mental health care, the focus is always on the care recipient or the patient or the client, and often carers' needs get a little bit overlooked. So Carer Gateway is designed to focus specifically on the carer and what the carer may need at the time of their contact with Carer Gateway. And it's to make government carer supports and services easier to navigate and be more accessible for people, no matter where they live. And the idea is that it will improve a carer's access to services that are proven to improve quality of life and their ability to perform their caring role. And what we can see is that we've got a national contact centre and website and phone number, with some local in-person services and supports. So anybody who's providing personal care, support or assistance to another person is eligible for Carer Gateway. They don't need to be living with the person. They don't need to be related to the person. They also don't need to be an Australian citizen, and they don't need a Medicare card. As long as they've been caring for that person, generally for 6 months or longer, unless they're caring for somebody with a life-limiting condition, they will be recognised as a carer. So we do know that people often, when they're receiving care and support from another person, there might be more than one person providing that support. A primary carer is the person that's providing the bulk of that caring responsibility. So primary carers and carers in crisis will be prioritised for some kinds of supports. So this is a screenshot just so you can see what the website looks like. We've got the website address and the contact number. That contact number is answered weekdays from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. It is the same number that people do call if there's an emergency and if people are looking for emergency respite. So Carer Gateway provides a lot of information about caring on the website and over the phone, including payments that carers may qualify for, health and wellbeing support, connecting with other carers, information about carer support groups, planning for emergency situations, and helps actually match someone's needs and their caring situation to services and supports that would be helpful to them. There is a range of online and phone-based services. So we have phone counselling, there's information and resources, as I just mentioned. There's an online carer forum where carers can connect with others in a safe, anonymous space. They can post questions in the chat. They can follow different themes of discussion as well. There are some self-guided coaching topics. And this is where carers have an opportunity to explore the impact of their caring role on their life. It's designed in partnership with carers. And the coaching sessions give people a chance to think about how they're going, what they'd like to be doing differently, and how they might be able to work towards that. We have a number of topics available, including your health and well-being, understanding the caring journey, what makes for good support, understanding inclusion and advocacy, work, study and volunteering, getting your finances in order, everyday life, how do you feel? There are also some online skills courses, and this provides information, insights and practical tips to help carers develop a new understanding and skills that could be important in their caring role. Each session takes around 20 to 40 minutes. Carers can complete it online and download their responses for future reference. And the types of courses available include dealing with stress, effective communication skills, recharge and reconnect, legal issues, social connections, and sleep. So back in April 2020, the Australian government put out a tender to see which organisations would be keen to deliver these in-person services or coordinate them on behalf of Carer Gateway. And as a result of that tender, New South Wales has been split into 4 regions, and we have a different lead organisation in each area. So we have a local Carer Gateway service provider in metropolitan Sydney, which is the Benevolent Society. Wellways leads the coordination of Carer Gateway services in Nepean, Blue Mountain and southwestern Sydney. Live Better Services is the lead organisation in southeastern New South Wales, western New South Wales, Murrumbidgee. And Carers New South Wales is the lead organisation in Central Coast, Mid-North Coast, Far North Coast, Hunter and New England, New South Wales. So this tender was to help Carer Gateway set up the capacity to deliver in-person supports across Australia through these appointments of Carer Gateway service providers. And what we have is a range of in-person or face-to-face services that are available. A new approach and one of the biggest changes with carer support is the introduction of this carer support planning process. And this is an ability for carers to speak to a member of the Carer Gateway team and take an opportunity to reflect on who they're caring for and all the different ways it might impact on their life, including their health, their well-being, their relationships, their ability to have time for self-care, their finances, and their ability to participate in education or employment. That carer support planning process could take around 45 to 60 minutes over the phone. So when carers are contacting Carer Gateway and undergoing that process and exploring some of these in-person services, it's good for them to be prepared to sit down and have a cup of tea and be ready to engage in a detailed conversation. Undergoing this carer support planning process helps the carer identify services and supports that may be helpful to them, and it may lead to referrals for in-person peer support, in-person counselling, tailored support packages, or in-person carer coaching. I'm going to talk about emergency respite separately because that's slightly different in how it's managed. So the carer support planning process is generally the first step when carers are seeking in-person care or support from Carer Gateway. And it means that carers will go through an intake registration, needs assessment and support planning process. The exception to this is if carers are contacting Carer Gateway for basic information, that will be the focus of the conversation. If they're contacting Carer Gateway for emergency respite, that will be the focus of the conversation. Once the emergency has resolved, there's an opportunity to come back to that carer when things are stable to undertake this carer support planning process. So some of the principles behind carer support planning, it's a holistic approach, considering all aspects of the caring role. It's very collaborative and conversational. It's outcomes focused, so really trying to identify services that will support a carer's goals and support their needs. Carer Gateway will be looking for sustainable outcomes. So if there's a short-term service that's offered, how is that need going to be met when that service finishes? It empowers carers to self-manage, and there's inclusive support. So the planning supports accommodate the needs and preferences for service delivery. And we can see this is a very busy slide, but it's basically in here just to show you that it's quite an involved process. And this is to ensure that all carers across Australia have the same outcome, no matter where they live or which Carer Gateway service provider they're speaking to. And we can see just with intake too that we're checking for eligibility to check the person is a carer. We're trying to understand if it's an emergency, and if it is, that's the focus of the conversation. If it's not an emergency, there'll be a bit of a registration detail where we collect information on the carer. We understand who they're caring for and if it's more than one person. This is really basic information. Sometimes we have carers contact Carer Gateway that don't realise there's a whole range of formal supports that could be available to the person they're caring for. So if they don't know about it, the person they're caring for is not accessing the right level of support, and it's putting more strain on that caring relationship. There's then an opportunity to understand the carer's specific needs and what prompted the call and what might be helpful to them. And then there's a creation of an action plan, which could lead to referrals and coordination of some services. And then there's a check-in to make sure that whatever the action plan is, that it's progressed and the carer's getting what they need out of the services that have been coordinated for them. So the carer support planning process might lead to a referral for in-person peer support. Now, this is some free facilitated peer support forums. There are 4 structured sessions, generally offered to carers with similar interests or similar caring responsibilities. So you might have some carers that live in a particular geographical area that are all caring for an older person living with dementia, for instance. Or you might have a group of carers that are supporting a young person with disability. The 4 structured sessions give carers an opportunity to learn from each other, share their experiences, share their tips and their strategies. Sometimes some connections are made and carers choose to stay in touch afterwards and form their own self-sustaining group. It's worth noting that these peer support forums may be offered in slightly different ways in different areas, depending on carer needs and preferences. So we certainly saw in COVID, when there wasn't a lot of in-person face-to-face catch-ups, these sessions were being delivered online via video conference, possibly weekly or fortnightly. We're now seeing that some of these are being delivered in person, and some of them are even being delivered over the course of a weekend. So 2 sessions on a Saturday, 2 sessions on a Sunday. In-person carer counselling is a free counselling service of up to 6 sessions for carers experiencing stress, anxiety or depression as a result of their caring role. Carers, the psychologists may agree that the carer would benefit from some additional sessions, and they certainly can approve that if they feel that it's going to be effective. It's worth noting too that carers can also access, by talking to their GP and having a mental health care plan, they're able to access additional counselling through Medicare if they are on a mental health care plan with their GP. Emergency respite is a little bit different. So if carers are experiencing an emergency, they are encouraged to contact Carer Gateway on the 1-800 number, and that will be the focus of the conversation. And by emergency, we're talking about something that is urgent, unplanned, or imminent. So the example might be that the carers had a health event and they've presented to hospital, or they need emergency surgery, or there's been a sudden death in the family, or for some reason they need someone to step in and take over their caring responsibilities in a hurry. So in this instance, carers bypass the full assessment. We're not going to go through the carer support planning process. The focus of the phone call is going to be on the emergency. Generally, there'll be a lot of discussion and exploring of what's actually happened, what services or supports are in place. Are there friends, family, neighbours that could provide assistance? Are there formal service providers involved? Can they help out? And generally, it's helping the carer explore all of those different options and see whether maybe replacement care might be needed, and then looking into whether that's trying to find a suitably qualified, experienced worker to come into the home, or potentially if it's an older person, would it be suitable for that older person to go into residential respite until the emergency has resolved? We also have tailored support packages, and these are very unique. It's very difficult to talk about what carers might qualify for, because everyone's situation is quite unique, and it will be determined by the carer support planning process. So for some carers, they might find that there is a particular service or equipment that might support them with their education. The example might be tutoring, educational supplies, or a training course. We might have young carers that are really restricted with job seeking or getting to uni because they don't have a driving license, and they might not have anyone in the household that can drive. So it might be that driving lessons would be helpful. It could be a planned respite where a service provider steps in to take care of the family member or friend while the carer has a break. It could be cooking or cleaning services. It could be assistance with shopping, or it could be assistance with transport. It might also be a piece of equipment that might improve the health and safety of the carer, or if they're providing hands-on support to the care recipient, it might also be explored. So again, this is very variable. It will vary significantly from one person to the next because people's circumstances are very different. So if a carer has a particular need and they believe it's going to make a difference, it is always important to contact Carer Gateway and have that conversation to see whether that might be something Carer Gateway can assist with. There's also in-person carer coaching, and this service came in July 2021. And it will expand on those online coaching courses that I described a bit earlier. There's free individual coaching for carers with specific goals in mind. And it could be from 6 to 10 coaching sessions, potentially over the phone or in person, depending on location and availability and carer preference. And the idea is that the carer has specific goals that will build their skills and their resilience in supporting their caring role. And the example might be that a carer has some health and wellbeing goals, but needs a bit of support on how to prioritise that in their busy life and how to juggle their caring responsibilities, or even just how to go about making healthier choices for themselves. So there can be a huge range of goals that carers set, and they can get that individual support from their carer coach. And finally, this slide just talks about how people can get in touch with their Carer Gateway service provider. So we know that Carer Gateway is a national service. We know that there's a website and a 1-800 number. Anytime someone calls that 1-800 number, it automatically diverts to the Carer Gateway service provider in their local area. So if I'm a carer and I'm calling in metropolitan Sydney, When I call Carer Gateway, Benevolent Society staff who are employed to deliver and coordinate Carer Gateway services on behalf of carers will answer the phone. If I happen to be living in Coffs Harbour, it'll be Carers New South Wales that answer the phone. People can also contact Carer Gateway by completing an online form. People can also go online, complete the online form or send an email and ask for a call back. So if people need assistance to communicate over the phone, or they're not able to sit on the phone and wait to get put through to somebody, they can request a direct call back from Carer Gateway. And as I mentioned before, on the first contact, Carer Gateway will be checking if the call is for emergency respite, in which that will be the focus. If the call is for basic information, which can be provided over the phone, or if the call is about access to other support types, in which case the carer will be put in touch with someone that can go through that carer support planning process with them. And we've just got a copy of Carers New South Wales website, just to let you know that there are additional resources, education and training, fact sheets, videos and support available through Carers New South Wales as well. This is in addition to whatever Carer Gateway can offer. Generally, Carer Gateway is offering individual tailored support, which could be in-person services to a carer. Carers New South Wales is offering to groups of carers, or it's looking at advocacy and representation on behalf of carers as well. So please have a look at upcoming events to see if there's anything that may be of interest to you. And thank you very much for your time today.